Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, shaking my brain nips every day so I can get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks in-person hands-on technology classes in Durham, North Carolina. Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We do in-person classes. Next week, we're having a class on AI and SQL. In November 19th, we're going to be having a class on AI and web scraping. We're going to be having mini boot camps coming up pretty soon, within the next couple of months. All of this I'm providing free to the end user to try to make the world a slightly better place, right? But I have to, in order to be able to pay for that, I have to shake my nips. If you do want to help support free to the end user technology education, there is a donor box link down below. Feel free to throw a couple of dollars in there. So, hey, does anybody else remember when WeWork was worth $48 billion? Remember when we were all told that WeWork was worth $48 billion? And in the blink of the eye, the damn thing went bankrupt. Yeah, I remember those days. I remember screaming about WeWork. I actually had a little spot in WeWork for a little bit, and I was talking about how stupid WeWork was back in, 2015. Remember when I did Silicon Trailer? I traveled all around the country with my wife in a travel trailer. Anyways, I was talking about how stupid WeWork was back then, and everybody went, Eli, you don't understand. And I said, I agree. That's the point. I don't understand why this damn thing is worth $48 billion. And then the fucker imploded. Why? Because of SoftBank. SoftBank continued to lead investment rounds into WeWork that continually drove up the valuation simply because they thought the value should be higher, all the way up until they had to put the prospectus in for their IPO. People actually got to see under the hood with what was going on with WeWork, and then everything the fuck exploded. Remember that? Well, I think we're going to be having that again pretty soon, within the next year and a half, when the OpenAI IPO goes boom. So it looks like OpenAI's IPO is at least now on the table, right? They say they do not have it scheduled. They say they do not have it planned. They say this is not their focus. But one of the things you find in the technology world is basically these companies end up going to the place everybody's talking about. It's kind of like when you drive a car. When you drive a car, your brain will figure out how to get to where you're looking, right? Like if you're looking at the cement barrier, you will drive into the cement barrier. If you're looking this way, your hands auto-magically do something and you miss the cement barrier. It's a lot like that in the business world, especially in the technology world, what you find is that how people are talking about a company many times guides where that company goes. Is that because the CEOs and executives hear what the scuttlebutt is, and therefore they conform themselves to what the scuttlebutt is? Is it that we all are connected over these brain waves, quantum brain waves, and we can kind of feel where things are going? And maybe that's it. Or maybe the executives know where they want to go, and then they start putting out stories for where they want to go to see how people react to that, and then that's how it goes. Anyways, right? I don't really know why it is, but what you start to find out is when rumors start coming out from companies or about companies about the direction that they're going to go in, many times that is the direction they in fact do go in. And so it does look like OpenAI is at least on track, or on the way to getting on track to doing an IPO. The issue that I have with OpenAI right now is it is a true stupicorn. It is the king of stupicorn companies, now worth theoretically valued at, the valuation is worth $500 billion. But the problem that I find with that valuation is much like when SoftBank led all those investment rounds with WeWork, we have more of like a group think here with this AI world, where you have Microsoft investing, and you have SoftBank investing. Again, you have all of these companies who have a vested interest in AI being a $100 trillion proposition. They're all investing into OpenAI to boost that rate. So I think basically what has happened is this is simply WeWork 2.0, right? with WeWork, you had SoftBank boost the valuation to insanity. Now they're coming together as a group. They're hyper scaling stupid ass valuations. And my question is, again, in a year or two, are we gonna see the books, and are we gonna be like, oh, what the fuck? No, but like seriously, man. What the fuck? I talk about this again. I do classes in AI. We just did for Silicon Dojo. We did a class on Olama with AI and OpenAI's API. We're doing the class on SQL and AI. Doing the class on web scraping and AI. We're doing more and more of these AI classes. And again, to be clear with this, I'm not saying that AI doesn't have a value. More specifically, I'm not saying LLMs or any of these models don't have values. It's just not that much. It's simply just not that much. And I think a lot of the resource burn, my argument goes into architecture versus what's actually required for a lot of this AI to be functional. It's interesting. Again, IBM. I hate to keep talking about IBM because I do hope IBM will become a sponsor one day. Well, not of this. Nobody's gonna be a sponsor of this sponsor. Anyways, hopefully they'll be a sponsor of Silicon Dojo since I do my classes in the Research Triangle. But I do have to say, I was watching another thing today talking about Granite's model, and it's curious where it's this. Oh, it's a new fucking model. It's like this resource consumption model. I don't know, it's these weird models they have now where it's like the total model is one size, but the active model is a different size. Like the model itself determines how many parameters are required in order to solve a particular problem, which is very interesting. But the important thing to understand there is, again, that whole thing of maybe you need many fewer resources to actually spit out the response, right? That type of thing. And that's where I say, like with a lot of this AI stuff, the valuations are just, just abjectly insane. And now you have OpenAI, they're looking to IPO, and you know how much they want to IPO for? As I've talked about before, right? Investors. If they buy equity for $1, they don't want to sell equity for 50 cents because that's losing money. They don't want to sell, if they buy equity for $1, they don't want to sell it for $1 because that hasn't done anything for them, right? They don't even really want to sell it for $1.10 or $1.20 because that's not really good value. They want to sell it for $2 or $5 or $10. I buy $1 of equity now. 5 years from now, I sell that equity for $10. So one of the things you have to look at is whenever companies are IPOing or whenever they're going out there to do their investment rounds, the real argument, the real fucking argument isn't if they're worth this amount of money, right? When they go out there and they're looking for this round, the actual argument is not whether or not they're worth this amount of money. The real argument is, in rather short order, will they be worth this amount of money, right? That's the question here. And so again, with ChatGPT or with OpenAI, right, when they say they're valued at $500 billion, it is not simply stupid that they think they're worth that, but their argument is that they will be worth multiples of that going in the future. You want to buy them at $500 billion now so that when they hit $5 trillion, you've been able to get all of that growth, which is just, don't get me wrong. Look, NVIDIA just hit $5 trillion. NVIDIA just hit $5 trillion in valuation. So I'm not saying it's not possible. Shit's possible, but that is a hell of a thing. And so now, but right, that's $500 billion, right? Now though, they're looking to IPO. I shit you not. This is not a joke. This is not an Onion episode. Hey, Onion, are you hiring? I think I'd be good. For you folks. Anyways, it's not an Onion episode. They're eyeing a $1 trillion IPO, initial public offering of $1 trillion. There is, again, we talk about the unicorn is a startup's worth, $1 billion. A decacorn is a startup worth $10 billion. A stupicorn, what I coined, is a startup worth $100 billion. What in the fuck are we gonna call startups worth $1 trillion? A fever dream a corn. A fever dream a corn. How about that one? So anyways, this just kind of shows you how stupid, again, I talk about a lot of this stuff what I try to discuss here is it is math. It is math. As I talk about with Trump or whatever these things, right? I try to focus on the policy. I try to focus on the policies. I mean, my opinions come out. My opinions come out. I'm a very frustrated man right now in 2025, if you can't tell. Anyway, my opinions. There is an editorial bent, but I do try to keep this by the numbers and just talk about how things work in the real world. And I just want you to understand, once you start talking about a company, talking about a $1 trillion IPO, which is just so much more than any other IPO out there. I think Alibaba might have been like the highest IPO, and that was a couple of $100 billion. This is multiples of any other IPO that has ever fucking existed. And the other thing too, like I say, with this with AI, one of the things I talk about is that this is an immature stack. It's really weird how people talk about artificial intelligence, like the way that they talk about it, the way they present it, as if it's a mature stack, as if we really understand what this whole stack is going to look like in 5 years. And the reality is we don't. Everything from the actual hardware architecture to the electricity consumption to the software architecture to the systems architecture to what people are going to be willing to pay for this stuff, right? You talk about things like ChatGPT, right? You know, they're touting, well, ChatGPT is so successful, EY. It has 800 million weekly users. Yeah, but 95% of them use it for free. For fucking free, right? Apparently, it looks like OpenAI has already burned something like $11 billion this year. They fucking lit $11 billion on fire. Only 5% of their user base actually pays for the service. And even with them, the people that pay $200 a month. So think about how much you're willing to pay for AI. Think about this. The people that are paying $200 a month is still a money-losing proposition on a per fucking user basis. But for some reason, they're considered so successful. Why? Do you think you're going to be able to plaster ads in the AI? I mean, interesting question. Can you plaster ads in the AI? Even if you can plaster ads into the AI, is that worth $1 trillion fucking dollars? Again, on top of all of these other companies coming out with platforms and systems and the whole 9 yards. Again, I talk about things like IBM Granite. And I know most of you, unless you follow along with me, you probably have never heard of IBM Granite. Because for some reason, IBM does a very shit job at marketing. You talk about an old school company that's kind of sort of keeping up with the modern times, but doesn't fucking bother to tell anybody else. Anyways, no, IBM, I will tell you, IBM is doing some pretty cool shit with AI. They're not fucking telling anybody about it for some reason, though. And one of the things, again, you look out with this AI stuff, is whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Meta, whether it's xAI, whether it's IBM, whether it's DeepSeek, whether it's Anthropic, whether it's Mistral, whether it's Microsoft is putting out their own models and all that kind of stuff. And again, one of the questions comes down the pike is one company in this incredibly crowded AI space actually going to prove a $1 trillion valuation? I have questions. I don't really have questions. I just have a shit ton of snark. Anyways, on Tuesday, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman told Reuters during a live stream that going public, quote, is the most likely path for us given the capital needs that we'll have, which is probably the case. So one of the big things with OpenAI is they started as a nonprofit organization. The issue is if their product had been human-centric, right, basically skills-centric, they probably could have kept it as a nonprofit organization because basically with human beings, you can convince them to donate time. Like you look at open source projects, you look at Linux, how much free work, completely free work has gone into the Linux Foundation, right? Because people are supporting open source, right? So here's the thing. If AI had been truly just a software problem, they probably could have kept it to being a nonprofit if they wanted to. The issue is that much of it is a hardware problem, right? You start talking about thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of GPUs. And when we talk about those hundreds of thousands of GPUs, it's 40 grand per GPU. So you do the multiples there, right? You can't ask a GPU, hey GPU, would you like to come in on the weekends and work for free? Like you can't ask that a hardware, right? And so that was one of the things with them turning into this for-profit entity. Is basically the idea is they can go out and they can actually truly get investment from the Microsofts of the world, get investment from all these other folks in the world, just to get the fucking cash to build data centers, right? Again, there's this idea like the world is built on code, and the only jackass who would say that is somebody who hasn't been out of their basement in the past 5 years. The reality is the internet is built on steel. That's their fucking reality, right? And so they need a lot of steel. They need a lot of cement. They need a lot of servers. They need a lot of GPUs. They need a lot of Cat5 or fiber cable or whatever the hell connecting all this shit together. And that shit just cost a metric crap ton of money. Again, $40,000 per GPU, $200,000 per NVIDIA server, which comes out to something like $10 million per rack. Can you imagine that as an IT professional? If you looked at one rack and that was $10 million. Fuck me, right? That just puts migration, in your brain in a whole different light. So anyways, right, that's why they became a for-profit corporation, so they could get that investor money. Well, the idea, right, is Sam Altman. Sam Altman wants to do $4 trillion in CapEx expense. Like he has stated this fact, right? CapEx expense is server rooms and servers and hardware architecture and all that kind of stuff. He wants to do $4 trillion just in CapEx expenses. So the issue is, right, he's getting money from the private market right now, high net worth individuals. But the idea is to get the real money, to go into the stratosphere. You go on the public exchanges, basically go into the stock exchange, you do your IPO. Everybody around the world is now able to purchase stock in your company. And then you get NVIDIA, worth $5 trillion. And so that's the idea. When he says, his most likely path for us, given the capital needs that we'll have, when he's talking about the amount of just CapEx expenses that he's talking about, he just most likely simply can't get that from the private market. Now, sources familiar with the matter say the ChatGPT maker is preparing for an IPO that could value the company at up to $1 trillion, with filings possible as early as the second half of 2026. So this might be next year. However, news of the potential IPO comes as the company faces mounting losses that may have reached as much as $11.5 billion in the most recent quarter, according to one estimate. Burning $11.5 billion in a 3-month period. That is a hell of a thing. That is a hell of a bonfire right there. Going public could give OpenAI more efficient access to capital and enable larger acquisitions using public stock, helping finance Altman's plans to spend trillions of dollars on AI infrastructure, according to people familiar with the company's thinking who spoke with Reuters. Chief Financial Officer Sarah Fryer has reportedly told some associates the company targets a 2027 IPO listing, while some financial advisors predict 2026 could be possible. So anyways, we're talking about a year and a half, 2 years, possibly doing an IPO for OpenAI. 3 people with knowledge of the plan told Reuters that OpenAI has discussed raising $60 billion at the low end of preliminary talks. So it's valued at $1 trillion. They're only selling a certain amount of their stock. So the idea is they want to sell $60 billion of equity. If OpenAI sold that amount of stock while keeping most shares private, the entire company could be valued at $1 trillion or more. The final figures and timing will likely change based on business growth and market conditions. So yeah, they're targeting a one shit. Can't even keep a straight face through this thing. They're targeting a $1 trillion valuation for OpenAI. So yeah, that's the world we're in. That is the world. When you're sitting there and you're looking at the complete and utter devastation of 2025, and you're thinking, I don't know, could it get any worse than this? Yeah. Imagine when fucking OpenAI burns it the fuck in next year when they try to get a $1 trillion valuation. Imagine what happens when OpenAI goes fucking boom. When people get to see their books and realize what an idiotic, dipshit, fever dream this whole AI horse crap is. That, my friends, is when the stupidity gets super fun. We hyperscale the fun of the stupidity. So, yeah, I just don't get this. Like, it's like when I talk about Tesla, right? Whenever I talk about Tesla, oh my God, the Tesla stands just won't stop. It's like, it's not that Tesla shouldn't be valuable. It's not Tesla doesn't have an adequate product. I own a Model Y. It's a pretty crappy car. I don't like it. I like my Ford. I like my Ford Escape. Give me a Ford Escape with just fucking electric power. I'd be a happy boy. I don't understand why Ford doesn't build it. But here's the thing, right? You know, Tesla is fine. It's a fine enough car. You know, the rest of it. But then you talk about, and all I say about Tesla is it shouldn't be worth that much. Like Tesla right now is like worth $1.1 trillion. I don't know. It was last time I looked. Fuck if I know what it currently is worth. Anyway, it was north of $1 trillion. And my argument is, look, tax breaks have gone away. They're losing market share in China. Their cars are just old at this point in time, and they weren't particularly great the day the day that they came out. Everything is being hyped up on robo-taxi, which seems to be a fucking shit show, to be honest with you. And then because that's a shit show, he now wants you focused on the Optimus robots. Then there's this idea like Optimus is going to be worth like $20 trillion. Where again, there's a lot of other companies out there that are creating humanoid robots, right? When Tesla came out with electric vehicles, right, they were the only ones in America to push electric vehicles, right? They had the entire market to go after. When they put out the Optimus robots, no matter how good they are, even if they're great, even if they're fucking perfect, they're still going to be going into a very crowded market with everybody else in the world thinking that's a $20 trillion proposition. So when I talk about Tesla, it's not that Tesla should go bankrupt. By no stretch of the imagination should Tesla go bankrupt. It's just, it's valued too high. By any sane fucking measurement, it's just fucking value too high, right? And that's my problem too with this artificial intelligence stuff, this AI stuff. Is this AI stuff powerful? Yes. Is it paradigm shifting? Yes. Is it all kinds of good, wonderful stuff? Yes. Does that mean one single fucking company should be worth $1 trillion? Does it mean one hardware company should be worth $5 trillion, right? It's interesting. Like with NVIDIA right now, the stock keeps going up. But the curious thing is, like if you look at it, so NVIDIA's chips are used for training. The big thing for NVIDIA's chips are training. So whenever you're dealing with AI, there's training and inference. Inference is using the models that have been created through training, right? So the big thing with NVIDIA is training. Very few people can compete for GPUs that can do training at scale. The thing is, for inference GPUs or processors or whatever, like ASICs processors, I mean, they're damn near coming out of Cracker Jacks boxes at this point in time, right? A lot of people, right? Being able to do inference is something that a lot of engineers have been able to figure out to do. So they have a massive amount of competition in that particular area. So NVIDIA has lost all market share in China. I mean, think about this for a second. They lost all market. They went from 95% of the Chinese AI market to 0% in like a year or two, right? At the exact same time, people are nipping on their heels for inference. Again, there's a company called Grok, not XAI's Grok. It's a different Grok, right? They're able to create like a data center in something like 5 weeks. It's absolutely ridiculous. Amazon is coming out with their things. Google is now selling services for their TPUs. Anthropic just purchased the rights to use something like a million TPUs. Again, these are like ASICs type processors or whatever, right? So at this point in time, where the inference market is being devoured by anybody who can devour the inference market, where the Chinese market has been completely and utterly taken away from NVIDIA, and yet NVIDIA stock, again, as with all this shit, is reaching all times, like record level highs of $5 trillion. And that's where I look at this. And it's not that NVIDIA shouldn't have a lot of value. It's not that it shouldn't be worth a couple of $1 trillion. But when you think about it being the most valuable company to ever exist, and it's all based on this AI hysteria, I'm just saying, does that make sense? And that's where I think all of this stuff is gonna gonna go boom. I think with AI, we are going to have WeWork, a hyper-scaled version of WeWork, basically self-destructing. And the interesting question will be is what will be the follow-on effects? As I've talked about before, right? In 2008, when Bear Stearns fell, let me be completely honest, I didn't give two shits the day Bear Stearns fell. Right? That was back in the day when you could still get Wall Street Journal, good Wall Street Journal. This was 2008 era Wall Street Journal before it turned into whatever the fuck it is now, right? I would wake up in the morning, I would drink my coffee, I would read my Wall Street Journal before I went to work because I was a good little yuppie, and I saw Bear Stearns. I was there to see Bear Stearns fell. And then I shrugged my fucking shoulders and went to work that day. Just did not give two fucks. Oh, about 10 months later, I gave quite a bit more than two fucks. But that day, I didn't care. And that's one of the things I do wonder, like when the AI thing pops. Because like one of the interesting things I was looking at, doing some research for these videos, so we're talking about like with the electricity providers. So the electricity providers are actually running into an issue right now, which is kind of curious. So we hear this about all these AI data centers need all this electricity. Well, one of the interesting things that's happening is a lot of these electricity providers are having plans submitted for data centers before the data centers have full funding and approval. Right? So these data centers are going to need a tremendous amount of electricity. Right? And so with policies, you know, the meager amount of policies we have in the United States, one of the things is if one of these data centers goes in, they have to send information to the electricity provider so that the electricity provider has enough time to invest and build up their infrastructure to be able to support the new data center to a relatively decent degree. One of the interesting things that's come out from a lot of these electric utilities is they say they're seeing essentially duplicate plans coming into different electricity providers as these AI companies they're putting down their plans without being fully financed and without all the permits and what. So it's like, hey, we want you to know this data center is coming unless this data center doesn't come. And this is actually giving the electricity providers a bit of a heartache right now because they're not really sure what to do with it. They haven't seen this before. Like normally, if somebody puts in plans for something that needs a lot more electricity, more or less, they know that is coming down the pike and so they can work with it. This is kind of like, yeah, well, we're thinking about building a data center the size of Manhattan, or we might not. But hey, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared for it. And yeah, that's causing issues. So again, you think about this with if the AI bubble pops, right? When WeWork popped, right? WeWork hit a lot of people. Again, a lot of real estate, came on the market relatively quickly as basically WeWork started dumping their leases and all that kind of stuff. And that's one of the interesting things about like when the AI bubble pops. Not only is it the investors, not only is it the people that invested in NVIDIA or that invest in OpenAI or that type of thing. Think about all the electricity companies. What happens if massive data centers shut the fuck down or don't get open or don't get enough financing to get opened, right? You think about construction companies. You think about people that might be moving to areas or areas that might be having economic resurgence because they're building a data center the size of Manhattan right beside them, right? Think about if that kind of crap implodes and think about all of the follow-on effects that would happen, which is, one of the things that'll be, as I say, curious. It'll be curious to watch. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about OpenAI eyeballing a $1 trillion valuation? Does this just make sense to you? Are you like Eli? The problem with Eli, he just doesn't understand this stuff. Is that what you're thinking? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing. Call me a moron. Just be a real Lutnick. Give us a strong American comment down there because that's what we demand. None of those weak ass European comments. Do remember what I actually care about is Silicon Dojo. SiliconDojo.com, free to end user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do in life. We're having a class on AI and SQL coming up next Wednesday. We're having a class on AI and web scraping coming up on November 19th, and we're going to be having more coming down the pike. Take a look at SiliconDojo.com to see what our current schedule is. Also, remember, free to the end user is not free. That's why I shake my nips every day. If you would like to throw some money in to help the project, there is a donor box link down below. Recurring payments is lovely. $1 a month every month is a very useful thing. I'll do my ask. I will tell you exactly what I want. Well, what I really want is $1,000 a month, but I don't think you'll give me that. But could you do $1? Like, I'm not asking you for $1,000 a month. How about 10? Could you do 10? Could you do 10? Anyways, with that, see y'all later.